legal and controlled immigration is a wonderful thing and enriches society beautifully. But at the same time, we were told post-Brexit, as I said, we'd have control of our borders. What has happened? Why do we not have control of our borders at the moment?
Well, first of all, we can't possibly patrol the Channel and stop people coming across to the UK. It's too vast an area. The government's tried it. They've even tried to make crossing illegal to deter people. That hasn't worked. And they've had all sorts of ridiculous ideas. They've even thought about a wave machine, Priti Patel was...
Wave machine?
Yes, a wave to prevent them from getting across. So the current strategy is nothing new. It was tried by the Australian government in 2014, and the strategy was this: intercept and remove to another country, so they don't land on Australian borders. That didn't work. Governments tried that with Rwanda, but it's clear to everyone that Rwanda is not a safe country. It's got atrocious human rights records. They have a history of detaining people, arbitrary arrests and executions. So, and that's the government's own report.
But isn't that the Rwanda of old? Has Rwanda not actually come as a country into one of the best truth and reconciliation positions there is possible following a mass genocide? I mean, is that... I'm not a global policy expert, but it seems to me that Rwanda is a shining example of the recovery of mankind after great horribleness.
Well, that's what they'd like you to think. The documents we have to support what I'm saying is the human rights reports. The current one, the government's own current human rights report, reports of arbitrary arrest, detention, torture, execution. What they do to their own... they have a lot of refugees leaving Rwanda and going to other countries. Well, when they end up in Rwanda, they're going to end up straight in the police, in the cells, and detained and subjected to torture and violence.
So why have... When we're promised control of our borders, why are we seeing record levels of what I think is... When I look at these boats in the Channel, I just think that it looks incredibly dangerous. And it also is, as far as I'm concerned, people trafficking and criminal. What can be done legally to stop this flow of illegal migrants?
Well, look, we're members of the Refugee Convention. We have an obligation, international obligation, to accept and assess and determine asylum applications. The problem we have is that we have a number of people who are bogus claimants. So there has to be a strategy to weed out those people. Look, if you end up at Heathrow Airport with a false passport or you're claiming asylum, you will not be allowed airside. But
that's it. We're not talking about Heathrow Airport. We're talking about a boat which is not seaworthy, being pushed 11 miles out into the Channel by the French government, and them going, "You deal with it." So, just as a sort of punter, as I am, why are we not? Why are we allowing the French to let the people through a perfectly safe, secular democracy?
We have an obligation, a treaty obligation under UNCLOS, which is the United Nations Convention on
Does France have that?
Laws of the Sea. Yes, they do.
So why are they not
They
staying
choose to ignore it. So
why are they coming to the UK, do you think?
Main reason is family. That's the main draw. So you're not going to deter people by threatening to send them to Rwanda. That's the main draw of the UK. Genuine refugees, because the British system, they see as being fair and being treated properly. Look, I had a young 13-year-old who was tried to claim asylum in France. He was put out on the streets. They wouldn't even entertain.
Well, but then how long is England and Britain going to have to pay the price for this huge amount of illegal and dangerous migration? We've got a crumbling health service. We're suffering from the cost of lockdown crisis. We've got an energy crisis ahead of us. We're staring into a financial abyss. Why should Great Britain foot the bill for that?
But we're not. If you look at the French number of asylum seekers in France, over 100,000. Germany, over 100,000. Look at Turkey, over 1 million. We have less than 25,000 a year. That's the number of asylum seekers. The problem is, what do we do with those that are bogus? And I mentioned about the airports. We don't have such a system for our water, our sea borders. We must not allow people to actually physically touch land. So the way to do it is to, which I've written to Prissy Patel, and now I will write the same to Suala Bravan, is to process these people offshore. So have offshore processing centres and weed out screen them, weed out those that are not genuine, and the problem is identity. Well, technology can deal with that. Albania, we should have an agreement with Albania that once we photograph and fingerprint people, they identify them, and there'll be a system to send them back to Albania.
Well, exactly. I mean,
But
so essentially,
it's
you're promoting what Trump's policy was in America, which is to pre-check people.
Yeah,
so that makes sense.
It's not happening. It's not happening.
Okay.
But we need an agreement with the French. The French will need to be on board, and we should be talking to the French, having a bilateral treaty to deal with these people. And we have to horse trade with them. They may want cash.
Horse
Whatever it is they want, but we have to do it. We have to cut a deal with the French so that they're on board with any policy we have. Without the French, it will not work.